And a very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you into our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. And yep, it's just me, your old pal Ironhead today. The Goon is on vacation. The dear Booch is otherwise tied up, as is Landon Tangwall. So you've got me for the full 2 hours. There is a lot that I do want to unpack today. We had a brief discussion. It's like, hey, Ironhead, you want to take the day off? We'll just scrap it. I'm like, no, I really don't. There's a lot of things that I want to get into, and I think a lot of things that are worth discussing. And so we will fly solo here. If you have comments, certainly at the Facebook Live or YouTube, you can pass them along to me, and we'll answer questions as best we can as we go along. Of course, Penn State with a bye week this week. The Nittany Lions sitting at 6-0. And one of the things I want to get into is just the kind of the perceptions that are out there. And I think this is one of the interesting things always in sports, and for that matter, in society in general, is how much we ascribe things to, well, past results, history, tradition, versus, all right, well, let's look at what is actually happening right now this season. And where I'm going with this, at least initially, is and it just stood out with me, maybe more than it should have, but I remember coming off of the Alabama-Georgia game. I had a couple of different folks reach out to me with just various discussions, group chats that we were having. And I had a couple of people reach out and say, listen, it's fine that Penn State's off to a decent start, but give me a break. They struggled against Bowling Green. You watch Alabama and Georgia, that's two big-time football programs. I mean, Penn State's not really in their class. And I think we even said on the show that week, I'm like, well, right in the moment, I might agree with you, but it's like a whole season that has to play out here, and let's see how it does. And one of the things I just wanted to, I've just been kind of digging around, playing around with statistics. I really have not had a chance to dig into much of anything this week. We have our Center County Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony and banquet on Sunday, and I've been tied up doing a bunch of things with that. And so I had an idea of what I wanted to do today, even with Booch. And when Booch let me know that some other things came up, I did want to just delve in, and I haven't gone through everything yet, but I think there's some interesting things that are happening out there. And again, it goes to perception versus reality. And listen, I'm not saying anything that is reality right now. We're 6 weeks into the season. There are some things that I think we know, but could be wrong about even those. And we'll see as the weeks unfold. But I think there are some things that are becoming apparent about this season that are not playing out the way folks may have expected at the start of the season. And I am fascinated by this Georgia at Texas game coming up here on Saturday. Everything going into this game tells you Texas should win it. Texas has all of the intangible edges. It's a home game. It's a night game. So Georgia's having to go on the road. Texas has been playing very well. Texas has been tested. Texas has passed all of their tests with flying colors. Georgia's kind of stumbling in, didn't look that impressive at all against Mississippi State. Barely got by Kentucky. Has the loss to an Alabama team that hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire since. And so everything leading into this would tell you, Texas ought to handle this pretty easily. And I wanted to dig in a little bit on, all right, wait, what is Georgia this year? Like, where are some of the problems occurring? Well, they're one of the more penalized teams, actually, in college football. And turnovers have been a problem. Well, the perception, and I think it's not an inaccurate perception going into this season, is that Kirby Smart, with Nick Saban's retirement, may be the best college football coach in the country, but certainly is among the handful that you would put in consideration for that position. Well, what do we generally think of when we think of well-coached teams? Well, those are teams that don't make penalties, Ironhead. Those are teams that don't turn the ball over. Well, So now, is my argument here that Kirby Smart has forgotten how to coach football and that this is a lousy job by him this year? Nope, not so much. But might it actually have more to do with the do you not think Georgia is emphasizing the same things they always have in practice and are looking at the things they need to do to improve? And of course, and what I think is going to be one of the things that I am really going to be looking at here Saturday night is how many penalties does Georgia have, and especially, those pre-snap penalties, the ones that we would attribute to, it's just not a well-coached football team. The false starts, the offsides, illegal motion, those types of penalties. They have plagued Georgia to this point in the season. And can Georgia win the turnover battle? I think going in, I think that is a must. For Georgia to prevail, I think they have to at least be +1. And I kind of think maybe +2 to really have a shot of winning this thing here on Saturday night. So started digging into some of the statistics, and I didn't have time to dig into everything to the degree that I wanted to. But one of the things that I found very interesting, because I was on, we pre-record the Keystone Kickoff show, Jim Galante does. And so we recorded earlier today the hour that will air tomorrow, the second hour of the program that will air tomorrow. And one of the things that we discussed was kind of where the Penn State is halfway through the season compared to where we thought they would be in various elements. And I said, after watching them against USC, that if you remember back to the start of the season, I think generally we were all agreeing that Penn State, at least statistically, was going to take a half step back on the defensive side, but that we thought with Andy Kotelnicki and Drew Aller another year wiser and familiar, that offense would take a bigger leap than the defense would a step back. And I thought it was a pretty good, and I said halfway through, I think that's kind of played out. Well, listen, Penn State was at the top statistically last year, but I went to look up today, and I was actually a little surprised. So Penn State's total defense right now is 8th in the country. Well, that's pretty doggone good. Texas, by the way, is number 1. Tennessee 2, Kentucky 3, Northern Illinois, which it's interesting. Northern Illinois did get a big win over Bowling Green on Saturday. It was an interesting matchup between Bowling Green, which gave Penn State a run for its money, and Northern Illinois, which of course knocked off Notre Dame. Northern Illinois won it, I think it was 17-7. But Northern Illinois has a couple of losses, though, on the season, including one to Buffalo. So not lighting the world on fire, despite the Notre Dame win, is Northern Illinois. But 4th in total defense. Then Ohio State is 5th. Indiana 6th. Minnesota 7th, Penn State, Washington, and Army West Point. Now, one of the things that's come up in a couple of discussions I've had, again, with friends and just other media folks and stuff is, well, Penn State got exposed a little bit by that USC offense. Elite defenses, I mean, come on, they don't give up 30 points like that against USC. Well, Ohio State, again, is ranked, what did I just say? I think 4th in terms of total defense. Well, they just gave up 30-plus and lost a game to Oregon. Do we not think Ohio State's 5th? Sorry. Do we not think that Ohio State is at least a very good defensive team. I think most, and I certainly do think they are a very good defensive team. I think, again, Oregon is a great offense. I think USC, by the way, when that offense is clicking, I think USC also has an outstanding offense. And as has been talked about a good bit, they've just been a few plays away from maybe putting together an undefeated season and being in the running with Oregon and with Texas here as teams to watch for the national title. But they've not been able to make the key plays in the clutch, and so they have 3 tough, hard losses. One of the things with USC, though, is that this team is, I'm just trying to make sure I have this right, 6th right now in third down conversions on offense this season, meaning that they are converting their third down opportunities. And Penn State did a good job. When you look at that statistic, 70, let me see. Yeah, they are. Oh, hold on. I'm mixing this one up. This is the defensive statistics. Get the third down offense, because I think they were very high. There was an offensive category. I might have mixed this up. Okay, they're 26th in third down conversions on offense. And another element here, though, is obviously who you've played factors in, and that's why I think Texas being number 1 in total defense is very impressive when you look at the teams they've played. However, yeah, I'm going with the tenders today. I made that call. No steak salad. We're doing the tenders option today. Those are my 2 go-tos here when it comes to food choices, although you cannot go wrong here at Quaker Steak and Lube. So listen, I think this USC offense is very good. I think that is a good offensive line. I think it is a terrific quarterback, an elite receiving core, and an outstanding running back. And so to me, when you have a very good offense, and I think at the very least, this is a very good offense, and I'm going to have to circle back to my statistics here and see exactly where they rank in total offense. But I think when USC is on, the talent on that side of the ball is comparable to just about anybody in the country. And one of the things, though, is that you have to make plays in the clutch. Like, one of the things that separates, we talk about football being a game of inches. Well, who makes the big play or who doesn't make the big play when the game is on the line? And while I think Miller Moss is a terrific quarterback, he had the overthrow that went to Jalen Reed when USC needed an accurate throw. So I think whereas Drew Aller delivers the ball twice right where it needs to be and does so to Julian Fleming, who also deserves all kinds of credit for coming up with the big catches after really not being targeted much at all this season. And when he was, including earlier in that game, had not produced. So, part of this is where and when you produce, and Penn State has come up with the big plays when they need to. But again, Penn State is 8th in total defense, and I will concede that part of this is, with all of these statistics, you have to take into account the overall schedule, although I think Penn State's schedule is maybe a little better than some are giving it credit for. As I said, USC is a few plays away from being an undefeated team. I get it. They're not. They're 3 losses. What your record is, fine, all of that. That's a really good, very talented roster And I think USC is going to be one of the more interesting watches for the rest of the season. Now that they have that third loss and they know they're not going to the playoffs, do they pack it in or do they rally now for Lincoln Riley, realize how close they are, and kind of start building for the future? And listen, they could be a spoiler for a team like Notre Dame here down the stretch. That'll be the last game of the season. And I think that one is at USC this year. But they have, games remaining like at Washington. That'll be a big one for them. So there's still, they still have Nebraska coming up. They are, you could see this thing, they could have another 3 or 4 losses before the season ends, or if they finish up strong and finish 9-3, they could be one of those top teams not in the playoffs this year and really start building, maybe for a significant run next year if Lincoln Riley can keep the majority of players in tow and all of that. So USC to me becomes one of the more intriguing watches here for how the season plays out, because as good as they are, I think they are capable of winning all of the remaining games. And I also think if they kind of lose some confidence or lose some inspiration now that the playoffs are out of the question for this season, there's certainly at least 3 more games that could go down as L's. I'm trying to think. I think they have Illinois coming up in a couple of weeks. They're at Maryland this week. I'll have to pull up their schedule here. I think they have Illinois, Nebraska, Notre Dame remaining, and then that game at Washington, which not exactly sure what to make of Washington at the moment either. But Penn State, again, 8th in total defense. They are 14th right now in total offense. And while Drew Aller isn't putting up the eye-popping numbers at quarterback in terms of yards and touchdowns, when you look at quarterback efficiency, guess who's right there in the top 10 in college football this season? And yep, that would be Drew Aller. And I thought I had that stat readily available. Let me just quickly get it here, because I think he's either 7th or 8th in QB efficiency this season. And when you combine that with something else I'm going to get into here, which is there is a list at ESPN of the top 25 players in the country at this stage of the season. And what I found truly astounding about it is that there is no mention of Tyler Warren. And again, it's one person's subjective opinion, and not saying the other 25 aren't worthy football players. I don't know how, if you're listing any list of top football players, if you go down to 10, my opinion, you have to have Tyler Warren somewhere in that top 10. Again, this is a tight end who has 40 receptions already on the season, but also, has snapped the ball, has run the ball for a touchdown, has passed the ball for a touchdown. And as Goon has pointed out repeatedly, when he blocks, it's not just that he gets the assignment done, it is that he is dominating people, putting them on their butt or driving them 5 or 10 yards downfield. Like, he is blocking as well as anybody possibly could from the tight end position, or for that matter, from any position. And so to me, when you combine everything, if you're talking about top football player, there's no way that you can't. Tyler Warren has to be in your top 10, my opinion. And this guy with ESPN, I'll try to pull that up later, but didn't have him anywhere in the top 25. Abdul Carter was in the top 25. He was the only Penn State player listed. And we're not even talking, like, it's one thing if you want to project NFL level and draft status and all of this, but this wasn't that. This was top 25 players. You can argue just because of the relative import and what teams' needs are in the NFL. I don't know exactly where Tyler Warren is going to go. I can't imagine that he won't be the number one tight end drafted in the upcoming draft because, again, he does everything at an exceptionally high level. All right, Drew Aller is 7th in quarterback efficiency, pass efficiency, with a 175.77. And, some of the guys in front of it, it's going to be interesting to see. Curtis Rourke right now is actually number 1 in the country. That's the Indiana quarterback. Now, they're going to face some tougher defenses here down the stretch. And not to say Drew Aller isn't going to face some tougher defenses down the stretch, but we'll see how some of these numbers play out. But right now, it's Curtis Rourke, Jalen Milroe in terms of QB efficiency nationally. Your top 7, Curtis Rourke, Indiana, Jalen Milroe, Alabama, Cam Ward from Miami, then Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Ole Miss, of course, just suffered its second loss of the season. Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, which what a job Bill O'Brien is doing. I know they have some losses now too, but boy, that is a team that is in every game this year. And then this is the interesting one to me. Will Howard, I think it's fair to say maligned quarterback after the game with Oregon on Saturday, is sitting there at number 6. And I'm not saying pass efficiency is the end-all, be-all, and the most telling statistic in all of quarterback and all of football, or even for a quarterback, but it's a pretty good tell of where the quarterback is. And Dylan Gabriel right now, who everybody is rightfully praising, I'm not here to disparage Dylan Gabriel, but he's 12th in quarterback efficiency. So, 6 spots below Howard and 5 below Aller, for whatever any of that is worth. I do think it is interesting to see, again, as we are at the midway point of the season, just some things that are playing out. And listen, I think Penn State is, to me, looking like a team that very much could be in the conversation here and in the running as being at the very least a semifinalist in this college football season. And we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, but at the moment, my guess is the only 2 teams right now, and maybe Ohio State would be a third, just because of the history here that Penn State fans have with it. But as a Penn State fan, I don't know who, with the possible exception of Texas and Oregon, and again, maybe Ohio State just because of the frustration of that series, that you don't think Penn State could match up with. And I listen, I think Texas, Oregon, any of those teams, again, on a given Saturday, neutral field, all of that, yeah, I think Penn State has more than a fighter's chance. And part of my confidence in that regard is, yes, I do think there's a lot of playmakers here. I think this linebacking core is getting better. I think there were some things that USC did very well against it this past Saturday, but I think they'll continue to learn. I think Kobe King is playing very good. I think Tony Rojas is playing very good. Dom DeLuca, I right on down the line. I think that linebacking core is good right now, and I think it's going to continue to get better. I think that defensive line is terrific. Doesn't mean they're not going to give up chunk plays here and there against good teams. I think that's just part of the game these days. But when you look at Dennis Sutton getting the tackle for a loss that I think was, certainly one of the real key plays in the victory over USC. When you look at the way Zane Durant has played, when you look at obviously the impact Abdul Carter can have, I mean, that D line, like against a Texas or an Oregon, yeah, I'll take my chances with that D line. And same thing with the secondary. I think, especially I have no idea if and when KJ Winston might be back, but let's say he's back for the playoffs. Well, what a boost that would be with a much more experienced then secondary with the guys that will be around him. and even without him, I think they're playing at a very high level and getting better each week. So I think this defense is playing better than maybe some fans are giving it credit for. And I think it has a chance to continue to play itself into an even better position by the end of the season. And while I'm pointing out a bunch of statistics, it really is more to me about, hey, are you making plays in the clutch? Can you make plays in the clutch? Do you have guys that can be difference makers when the game is on the line? And I think it's a resounding yes on both sides of the ball here for Penn State. And now with the emergence of Ryan Barker as the field goal kicker anyway, and his dependability through these last 2 weeks, now it feels like you have all three phases of the game in good shape. Penn State might not be dominant in any one area, but I think they've got enough of a running game, enough of dynamic element there. Same thing with the passing game. You've obviously got an elite player in Tyler Warren on the offense, an elite player in Abdul Carter on the defense. I think you have some other players on both sides of the bar, Nicholas Singleton and Jalen Reed, that are, maybe in I don't want to get too mired down in the terminology, but great or knocking on the door of elite or whatever you want to say. That very good players that can have an impact. And then you go out from there. And I think some of those others that Penn State needed to rely on, and I think you start with the receiving core. Well, Julian Fleming comes up big when you need him. We saw the previous week Liam Clifford come up big when you needed him. And I know there were some drops on Saturday, and I talk about this a little bit in the show with Jim Galani that'll air tomorrow. But we talked about to me, it's a little ironic that on a Saturday in which Drew Aller throws 3 interceptions for the first time in his career, and in which there were some drop balls, maybe as many dropped passes by the receiving core as they had all season. I don't know that for sure. I didn't go back and look at those statistics, but they had, I think, more drops in that game than they've had in any one game anyway in the season to date. But Aller comes up big when they need him. I think generally most people are conceding that was his best game as a Nittany Lion, interceptions be darned. And I think much the same thing with the receiving core. At least for me, I have more confidence in that receiving core as a whole now, despite the drops on Saturday, because they are making big plays and they are making clutch plays when they need to. And you make those plays against a Texas or an Oregon or, yes, an Ohio State in a couple of weeks, you're going to give yourself a chance in those games. And I think with what Tom Allen is doing with this defense and the adjustments they make with Andy Kotelnicki and all of the different ways he can get this offense in position to create matchup problems and to have some fun, keep defenses on its toes. Yeah, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, all included. I think Penn State, I don't think there is a team out there, and you might look at Texas right now and say that maybe is the one team that could be that team where they're a little ahead of everybody else. I don't think they're so far ahead of everybody else. Like I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams that, again, at least 3 or 4 teams that on a given Saturday, sure, they could beat Texas. Now, I think Ewers is fantastic as a quarterback. And I do think that defense, they have all of the pieces in place for sure to make a run. As I said earlier, I'm really curious to see that game Saturday and how it plays out. Going in, I think there's a strong contention to be made that, come on, Texas should win it and win it handily. And I think on paper, that's probably true. I think this Georgia team, again, that they have been doing a lot of things to beat themselves. They've not looked sharp. And they don't feel like one of the top teams in the country. When you watch them, you're not like, wow. When you watch Texas, and when you were watching that Oregon-Ohio State game, at least to me, it's like, wow, this is big-time college football. Georgia, I know the game with Alabama was very competitive, and in the moment, I will agree, it felt like that was a big-time game. Seeing what Alabama's done since and seeing what Georgia, I'm not sure that it wasn't more of a case of both of those teams are down a little bit. Now, down a little bit, I think they're probably both still among the top 10, 15 teams in the country. Georgia probably a little higher than that, even though Alabama won that particular game. But again, we'll see how it plays out. But I think there may be some other teams this year that are going to take advantage of the slight slippage that I think has occurred here with the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world. And yeah, I think Penn State is well positioned if it can retain relative health. I think this is an important bye week in terms of that ongoing growth and development on both sides of the ball. I think there's still some things, obviously, that you want to see cleaned up. I think there's some things that you'd like to see in terms of the offense in particular, being able to more consistently make plays in the passing game throughout the course of all four quarters. But listen, there's enough playmakers there, and I have enough confidence in those coordinators that, yeah, I think Penn State is perfectly capable of beating anybody in the country here in 2024. And I think certainly Texas is in that same category, Oregon, Ohio State, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how things play out in the SEC this weekend. We talked a little bit, and we might talk a little more about that Texas-Georgia game. You also have Alabama and Tennessee, and this is a game that feels like the loser is going to end up being on the brink here of whether or not they can be a playoff team. And the winner is going to feel like, all right, they've set themselves up now for a very good run. And this is a game that in years past, I would kind of chalk up Alabama's going to win it. Kind of have a feeling that this is going to be Tennessee's game here on Saturday. But a lot of intrigue, even though Penn State's off, in terms of the overall schedule with college football coming up here on Saturday. When we come back, I want to talk some other Penn State sports, and then we'll get back to college football. We'll talk a little NFL, high school football as well. Again, it is a day where there's a lot to discuss, even though Penn State is off. And so I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity, and we'll talk about more of it as we continue. It is our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show, and we're coming right back with more from Quaker Steak and Lube.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead.
And it's your old pal Ironhead here on a Thursday, flying solo on this bye week for the Nittany Lions. Couple of things on the Penn State sports front. The women's soccer team has its goalie back, and that is a big deal. And I think we'll, again, see how everything plays out. But I think Penn State is going to end up being one of the real contenders here for a national championship when it's all said and done. They've got a big game tonight. If you listen to our Let's Talk program, I was having some fun with it. I love the Go PSU sports website, the Penn State sports website. Puts it as a transcontinental, which it is. They're traveling across the continent for the matchup with UCLA tonight. Penn State women's soccer goes into the game ranked 16th in the country. UCLA is ranked 10th, and the game will kick off at 10:30 Eastern time tonight. Penn State has been very good, 11-3-2 this season, 5-2-1 in Big Ten play. UCLA has not lost in conference play yet. The Bruins are 2-2 overall, 7-0-1 in Big Ten play. So no question, this is a big test for the Nittany Lions. But they have Mackenzie Gress back in goal. She was the Big Ten goalie of the week last week, goaltender of the week, and she's just a difference maker. Right? And Penn State, again, has been very good in her absence, but getting her back and with everything else in place, I think Penn State has an excellent shot of making some big-time noise when the postseason rolls around, but we'll maybe kind of get an indication tonight of exactly where Penn State is. And listen, I mean, Penn State can lose this game and still go on and do great things. This isn't, I just think it's a good measuring stick game, especially going on the road. You know, we talked a lot about the difficulty for a football team going out there. It is not an easy trip for any team, and with everything else going on, just very curious to see how the women's soccer team does tonight. And again, it's a good measuring stick game at this stage of the season for Penn State, and we'll get maybe a little bit of an indication anyway of what kind of a run they may be able to make here when the postseason rolls around. Just an indication, maybe. The other thing that came out of, well, a couple of other things. One of the other things that came out that is of note is the Penn State women's gymnastics schedule for the upcoming season. And the Nittany Lions will host at Rec Hall the regionals, and they're doing it a little differently this year. And I really had not been paying close enough attention and was not really aware of the change. And let me get from the release here. Penn State will compete in the newly minted Big Four meet at Iowa. This isn't the complete change, but this is part of it. Newly minted Big Four meet at Iowa on Sunday, March 2nd at 6 o'clock. In Iowa City, the Nittany Lions will take on the host Hawkeyes, as well as Michigan State and Washington. That's a meet that'll be televised by the Big Ten Network. The season will open up, and this is, by the way, the 61st season of Penn State women's gymnastics. It'll open up with a tri-meet at home against New Hampshire and Penn, and then the Nittany Lions will travel to San Antonio for the San Antonio Invite with Arizona State and Auburn on January 11th. The home opener, again, if I didn't mention it, Sunday, January 5th at 2 o'clock. And then the Big Ten Championships will be in Ann Arbor, Michigan, March 21st and 22nd. And then, again, it's a little different this year with how they're handling the postseason. So, Big Ten Championships again in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And then Penn State will host and compete in the NCAA regionals that first week of April. And then the NCAA championships will follow in Fort Worth, Texas. So the Big Ten championships, that's new and different. And I think that'll be fun. We'll see how all of this plays out. It feels like this is going to be better for the fans of the sport. I think this is going to add more intrigue with the conference tournaments playing a bigger role. And then you go into the regionals, and then you go to the national tournament. So Penn State will host the NCAA regionals this year at Rec Hall. The regionals will be April 2nd through the 6th at Rec Hall. So the 2nd through the 6th is when the women's gymnastics team will host the regionals. And then, of course, Penn State women's volleyball continuing to play at a very high level. Did see Pitt now has had a couple of Pitt's still number one and still undefeated. They've had a couple of changes to their schedule as they're getting some additional TV coverage, and rightfully so. And I will be curious to see if and when, if Penn State gets a chance to play Pitt again, if they close the gap or even can come all the way. I think the learning experience of going against what is unquestionably, to this point in the season, the best team in women's volleyball in their place. I really think that is, I think it already has paid dividends. I think it's part of why Penn State is playing as well as it is they have the focus that they need to coming off of that. They will be, the women's volleyball team will be at Ohio State tomorrow night, and then we'll be back at home against Minnesota on Sunday at 2 o'clock. Nittany Lions sitting there right now at 16-1 on the season, and Penn State remains unbeaten in Big Ten play at 6-0 heading into the weekend. And it's been a very good run for the women's volleyball team to this point. And as I've said, I think a few times on this program and elsewhere, it really is reminiscent and feels like the good old days, if you will, when Russ Rose's teams were winning national titles. We'll see whether this team wins a national title, but certainly I think it is a squad that is going to be right there with Nebraska, contending for a Big Ten title, and is right there among the probably 5 or 6 teams that you would say right now feels like, yeah, you could see them getting on a run and making a real go at the national championship here at the end of the season. A couple of other just notes on the Penn State sports front. Penn State Athletics announcing that it has received a $5 million gift from Frank and Jennifer Marzano toward that Beaver Stadium revitalization project. And so the big individual gifts continue to come in to help offset the cost of that $700 million project. And there were a lot of folks, and yours truly included, concerned about the price tag that came with it. I will say Penn State has done a very good job to this point of really cultivating some of these relationships and getting money in hand here to, again, offset the high price tag that comes with that particular venture. And I do think credit is due there, and credit should be given to Pat Kraft and to the athletic department as a whole for its efforts and results with the Beaver Stadium project and the fundraising efforts along with it. So some of the things going on with Penn State athletics outside of football right now. Of course, I think a lot of people know Greg Kirkfleet is out now of the NWCA All-Star Classic. Don't really know any more than that at this point. But Penn State still has 5 wrestlers who will be competing in that event, which will open up the season for Penn State on November 16th at Rec Hall. And then, of course, the dual season opens up the next day with Drexel coming in for a 2:00 match at Rec Hall. So still 5 wrestlers competing. But, yeah, Greg Kirkfleet out. Younger Bastida of Iowa State will take his place. And that'll be an intriguing matchup. I will say Nick Feldman of Ohio State and Younger Bastida of Iowa State, I think is going to be still an entertaining heavyweight matchup there at Rec Hall in the NWCA All-Star meet. But that news broke yesterday that Greg Kirkfleet will not be competing now in the NWCA All-Star meet. I did want to mention while we're on the wrestling front here, and let me just get I'm going to have to get my readers on because it's a little harder for me to make out, but we did get the Big Ten network wrestling schedule and the matches that the Big Ten network will be televising this season. And the good news for wrestling fans, 24 dual meets, as well as the Big Ten Wrestling Championships, will be aired on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And then, another 80 contests or so will air on Big Ten Plus. I guess it looks like it is exactly 80 that will air on Big Ten Plus. But 24 meets on the Big Ten Network is obviously very good news. Now, there's a couple of things that are interesting. Penn State, of course, is a prohibitive favorite to win the national championship here in 2025 and the 24-25 season. Let me just go through here. The Penn State matches that will be picked up on the Big Ten Network. The match at Rec Hall against Michigan State on January 10th will be at 8 p.m. The match at Nebraska, and I know I had a couple of people reach out to me earlier asking about that particular matchup. It will be a Big Ten Network meet. So Penn State at Nebraska will be televised. Sorry, I'm trying to get the get the ads off of the screen here. Penn State, let's see, at Rutgers on January 24th will be televised. The Iowa at Penn State meet on January. Boy, this is really acting up on me here. Hang on just a second. Gosh, ads galore. That will be televised by the Big Ten Network. Penn State at Ohio State on February 14th. And then again, the Big Ten championships will also be televised by the Big Ten Network. So Penn State will have lots of coverage on the network, and 24 matches in all, again, I do think is very good news for Penn State fans and for Big Ten and college wrestling fans in general. That is pretty significant. All right, I have one without the pop-up ads. All right, so dates and times again. Friday, January 10th, Michigan State at Penn State at 8 p.m. The Penn State at Nebraska dual meet will be at 9 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, January 17th. The Penn State at Rutgers meet on Friday, January 24th will be at 8 p.m. And the Iowa meet with Penn State at the Bryce Jordan Center on January 31st will be 7 p.m. And on the Big Ten Network, the Michigan dual meet also at the Bryce Jordan Center on February 7th will be at 6 p.m. And then we have the match at Ohio State on February 14th on Valentine's Day. That'll be a 7 o'clock start Eastern time. And then again, they'll have the Big Ten championships, which will be in Evanston, Illinois this year. Sessions will start at Eastern time, 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturday, March 8th, and at 5:30 p.m. on Sunday, March 9th. So lots of coverage there for Penn State and the Big Ten with wrestling here in the upcoming season. And real quickly, just on the high school front, again, we will have high school football rolling your way tomorrow night here with Center County Red Zone. If you've not tuned in to Center County Red Zone, give it a listen tomorrow. I think we have a lot of fun with it. Zach Seiko will be providing the studio host duties tomorrow, and we'll have 5 home games for Center County. I think a couple that are really intriguing here. State College will have its homecoming game against Carlisle. Little Lions are heavy favorites there. State High is 7-1 on the year. Carlisle, the Thundering Herd, come in at 0-8. Carlisle did play actually one of its better games, or at least halves, last week before it kind of struggled in the second half. But State College, I think, may have had its most impressive game of the season to date with the win at Central Dauphin East, which had been undefeated going into that game. State High rolled to the 55-17 win. And so Little Lions just riding a wave of momentum here down the stretch. And again, should be a good opportunity to get some of the reserves an opportunity to get out there and experience Friday Night Lights at Memorial Field on homecoming for State High. State College homecoming parade, by the way, goes off at 6 o'clock this evening from the high school. Also, Bellefonte will be home with Huntington. An important game for the Red Raiders to get back on track and just need to take care of business here. Huntington is 0-8. Bellefonte's at 5-3 and looking to build some momentum here, looking to retain the 2 seed going into the playoffs. Bald Eagle area, this is probably the most intriguing game tomorrow night. Bald Eagle area taking on Bellwood Annis. The Eagles are 4-4 on the season. Bellwood Annis comes in at 5-3. And kind of a game where the winner is going to be able to make a move here in the standings, and the loser will also be making a move, but not in the right direction as we head toward the playoffs. And then tall order for both Phillipsburg, Osceola, and Penns Valley this week. The Mounties are 3-5, and Phillipsburg Osceola will host Bishop Guilfoyle, which comes in at 8-0 on the season. And then Penns Valley still looking for its first win, 0-8. Will welcome Tyrone, which is 4-4, and it feels like a game that really, if Penns Valley can go out and just sustain some things, they've shown some good things here and there. They've shown some growth. I think they've improved, even though the wins and losses, the wins aren't coming and the win-loss record might not indicate it. I think this is a much better team than it was at the start of the season, and I think if they can get off to a good start, just might be able to give Tyrone a real run for its money and maybe get that first win of the season here on Friday night. But again, that's our Center County Red Zone matchups for you on Friday. We'll have correspondents from each of the Center County games from 7 to 10 tomorrow night right here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. Again, State College with its homecoming game against Carlisle, Bellefonte facing Huntington, Bald Eagle area taking on Bellwood Annis, Phillipsburg Osceola, and Bishop Guilfoyle, and then Penns Valley going against Tyrone. So all of that action rolls your way tomorrow from 7 to 10 here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. And just a couple of other quick notes. Penn State men's tennis team is competing at the ITA Northeast Regional in Philadelphia today through Monday with both singles and doubles competition. And then the women's tennis team, of course, competed last week, and the team of Olivia Dorner and Maiko Uchijima of Penn State advanced, and Dorner has been named as the co-Big Ten Player of the Week after the doubles team earned a spot into the Nationals with their performance at regionals. Dorner also had a couple of singles wins and advanced to the round of 16 on the singles side at the ITA regionals last week. We'll talk some NFL and the big news with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the quarterback position. I'm not as worked up as some are. My preference, and I mentioned earlier in the week, I think Justin Fields with his legs gives you the dynamic there that I think benefits the Steelers well. But the Steelers are going to make a move here, and we'll kick that around a little bit as we continue with our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Again, we are at Quaker Steak and Lube. This is our favorite place to be. We are very appreciative to Jeff Byers and the staff here for allowing us to come down and have our little show here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Great food. If you're watching, yep, I have the chicken tenders in front of me. I prefer to do it with the broccoli and coleslaw, but I also love their steak salad, love the wings. Of course, Tuesdays, the all-you-can-eat wing buffet. The Dear Goon likes a wide variety as well. We love the quesadillas as well. My kiddo absolutely loves the quesadillas here as well. So, again, a lot to choose from on the menu. Of course, they're known for their wings. Their wings are phenomenal. And again, that all-you-can-eat wing buffet on Tuesdays is well worth the trip if you get the opportunity to come on down and partake. But, man, this is a great, we mentioned it, but it does have, it's that neighborhood bar feeling. You come in and it's kind of everybody knows your name. If they don't, they'll chat you up until they learn your name, and you can just watch sports to your heart's content. They have TVs all over the place, hockey, basketball, football, all on. When we get to those Big Ten Network games, you better believe Penn State Wrestling will be on down here. All of it is available. I am telling you, you cannot underrate the importance of having good service these days. There are a lot of places you can go, and it's like, I don't know, service was so-so. That left something to be desired. It just is not the case here at Quaker Steak and Lube. They do a phenomenal job. The wait staff here of taking care of you, making sure you're satisfied with the experience. Very attentive, very quick to get you something if you need it. They just do a great job. Can't emphasize that element of it enough. We'll take a break. We are coming back with more. It is our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show right here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, once again, The Fox, your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America. 98.7, The Fox, State College. The Goon and Ironhead.
And we welcome you back here on a Thursday. Again, it's your old pal Ironhead flying solo today. And the Deer Goon cleaning up on the lobster up in Maine this weekend, and certainly wish he and Carrie the best on that trip. Should be a lot of fun. We'll look forward to maybe some stories of the poor lobsters and the beating they're taking as a result of that visit next week. All right, let's turn to NFL talk here for a bit as we make the turn to hour 2 of our show here on this Thursday afternoon. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what I think is an absolutely critical 2-game stretch, and really a 3-game stretch that started with the Raiders last weekend. And going into this 3-game stretch, that was the game I was most worried about. Steelers coasted really to the victory in Las Vegas, and I think set themselves up very well. But here comes Davante Adams to the Jets. Jets have some renewed vigor and renewed hope for what the season may bring, and I think they are circling this game as really critical for them to get to where they want to go this season. And interestingly, with Davante Adams now in the picture, the Jets have been installed as 2.5-point favorites over the Steelers, even though the game will be in Pittsburgh here on Sunday night. And I do think this game now becomes fascinating on a number of different levels. And, start for the moment talking about the situation with the Jets, and then we will quickly pivot to the situation with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that has also now suddenly become, I think, even more intriguing as the weekend approaches. So Davante Adams, there's been a lot of debate. I've been listening to the talk shows this afternoon, and the discussion seems to be everybody agrees Davante Adams makes the Jets better. I don't know that you can necessarily quantify it. I know that's what everybody wants to do, and it's like, well, this is worth another win or two. I don't know. I mean, listen, if he makes the key play in 3 different games that they win close, I mean, he could be the difference in 3 or 4 games. He clearly makes the Jets better. He adds a degree of confidence and comfort for Aaron Rodgers, no question about that. And I think he is a big threat for opposing defenses, the Steelers included. Now, that's on the Jets side, and I think this offense, Aaron Rodgers has not looked great. Like there's some problems with the Jets, but to be honest, I think the biggest problem really has been the play of Aaron Rodgers, at least from what I've seen. And in fairness, I haven't sat down and watched the Jets games from beginning to end all throughout the season. But boy, he just does not seem to be playing with anywhere near the efficiency that you're expecting Aaron Rodgers. And actually, good timing here. They're bringing up the stats for Rodgers this season. He's 26th in completion percentage, 16th in passing yards per game, 25th in yards per pass, 18th in the touchdown interception ratio, which is 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions this season. And he has a pass efficiency rating of 84.4, which ranks 26th in the NFL. So, the question, I guess, really is how much better will Aaron Rodgers be with Davante Adams there? And again, that comfort and confidence level that he has with him, that Rodgers has with Adams, now that he's in there, how quickly do they kind of pick up where they left off? All of that stuff. We'll see. It's a big boost. There's no question about that for the Jets heading into this Sunday night matchup. But I think the Steelers have been good, not outstanding, but I think they're coming off their best overall game of the season there against the Raiders. And at home, the Steelers in primetime have been very, very good under Mike Tomlin. The 2.5 point figure caught me a little off guard for the Jets, because that means I think they usually attribute 3 points to home field advantage, which means on a neutral field, the Jets would be a 5.5 point favorite. And I know there's talent there on the Jets. I just, with the way they're playing right now and the way the Steelers are playing right now, it surprises me. And listen, there's a reason the odds makers are where they're at, and they know what they're doing. But man, to me, it feels like Pittsburgh at home with that defense and with the way the offense has been progressing. And that's, the question now is, are the Steelers getting ready to make a move at quarterback? And it was interesting, if you saw earlier, and let me get the comments from Justin Fields up, and maybe reading too much into the comments, but it seems like, and Russell Wilson has been getting first team reps. And let me just go to the story here. I got to put on my readers if you're watching again. So Steelers quarterback controversy. Let's see. I'm reading this from The Athletic. It's all over the place. Steelers quarterback controversy is coming to a head this week as Russell Wilson is now healthy enough to be in contention to start Sunday's game against the Jets. And this is why many, including yours truly, are now thinking that there may be that quarterback change here on Sunday night. Justin Fields saying earlier today, quote, "I don't think I played good enough, if I'm being real with you. If I'm being real with myself, if I did play well enough, I don't think there would be any sort of question who should be playing, who should not. At the end of the day, we got a few wins. Of course, I'm glad about that, but there's areas I can get better at. I'm just going to continue to work on those and continue to get better." And maybe reading too much into that. My take is, listen, the Steelers are playing for now, and they should be playing for now. I think with this defense, you don't want to waste the opportunity that you have when you have a defense like this. And if Davante Adams had, what would be interesting is if we could create the alternate parallel universe where the Steelers had signed Davante Adams this week. Like, would the Steelers be 2.5 point favorites or more in this game? Is it the Adams effect that is leading to this, or is it the questions around the quarterback spot for the Steelers, or is it a combination of all of that? So I'm going to make the contention for Fields, both in the moment and also long-term, for the Steelers. And let me preface this by saying, I don't think the world is coming to an end if Russell Wilson gets the start. I do think it's going to put the Steelers in a tough spot if he does not perform well. And I'll explain that a little bit here in a moment. But Justin Fields, to me, has played well enough to make this his position for the time being. Now, I'm not saying that you start Fields and no matter what happens from here on out, that's our guy, and we just, are hell-bent on making sure he starts. But my concern from the get-go with Fields was the turnovers. And with this team, the way it is comprised, and we can argue and debate management, coaches, whatever, how we got here. Listen, it's constructed the way it is, and what they have to do is not turn the ball over on offense, try to get enough production from its offense to pull games out, and rely on the playmaking ability of the defense. Like, that's the recipe for this team, the way it's put together to win. Don't make the critical mistakes on offense. And my concern going into the season was Justin Fields has shown a proclivity to do that. And What we don't know is that was that just the culture of the Bears and the maybe pressing because he felt like he had to do everything. And listen, he certainly has not been the best quarterback in the league or anything like that this year, but Justin Fields has not made the critical mistakes very often in really, with the exception of the last loss. Fields has played at a fairly high level all throughout the season, and with this offensive line and this receiving core, I think that's impressive. So I think if you're looking for the quarterback, to me, that gives you the best chance to win this season. Now, what I don't, it feels like it should be Justin Fields just because of that running dynamic. And again, to this point, he's not shown the propensity to turn the ball over within that Steelers offense. Now, what I admittedly don't know is what Russell Wilson is looking like compared to Justin Fields in practice. Maybe Wilson is seeing the field significantly better. Maybe he's delivering the ball to Pickens 5-6 times downfield, and they see the potential for dynamic plays there in games. And my gosh, it's just clear cut. Well, if that's the case, yes. Again, I'm not hell-bent on Fields has to be the guy, and no matter what happens, that's who you go with. But what we were told during preseason camp was it was very close. While Wilson had the edge, it was very close. Well, if that's the case, I have to believe Fields at this point now has a higher comfort level with what the offense is doing and with the way it's progressing. And again, he has them at 4-2, and it's not saying he's solely responsible for the 4-2 record, but they're 4-2 with him at quarterback. And it just feels like this is a dangerous time to make the move with the Jets and the Giants coming in prime time. Very important games. I'm not going to say must wins, but boy, these feel like games that the Steelers really should need to get. And I think if Pittsburgh can get to 6-2, which to me it feels like they should, then they're going into that bye week. That to me is the time. All right, let's see if Russell Wilson clearly is the better quarterback. You make the move, or hey, we have it rolling right now. Let's stick with it. I think the added danger to me, and not knowing exactly what's happening in practice, again, if Russell Wilson is just lighting the world on fire in practice, and it's obvious that, yes, he can make throws that Fields can't, and we're just delivering the ball accurately, yes, coaches are going to know more than any of the fans or media in terms of how these guys are looking in practice. But presuming it is still fairly close, the lesser of the factors is that there is no chance Russell Wilson is your long-term solution here at quarterback. I think very best case scenario, you're looking at 3 seasons. I think it is more likely that you're looking at this season and maybe next that you could get from Russell Wilson. I'm not sure that Justin Fields, I'm not at all confident that Justin Fields is your future and that is you found your next franchise quarterback. But I think you need to see if that could be the case and let this thing play out a little more and see if he can continue to progress and develop. And, it would be nice with either of them if you had the opportunity to bring in a Devontae Adams or an Ayuk or any of these guys that could, potentially help your franchise maybe take that next step. Amari Cooper would have been a nice get. Now, no chance, I think, with Cooper because of the divisional rivalry there with Cleveland. But, I have to believe the Steelers are still looking for the upgrade at wide receiver. And regardless of who's at quarterback, that is certainly the area of greatest need, I think, right now for the Steelers to take that next step. I'm really curious to see in these next couple of games with the Jets and the Giants what happens with Najee Harris. He had a very good game against the Raiders, was a bit of the spark plug there on the offensive side. Can they get that running game going? And, can Najee Harris be a guy that can maybe start to help wear out some opponents and maybe help open some things up for that receiving core? We'll see. Now, Zach Frazier's sounds like is going to be out for both of these next 2 weeks, for sure out against the Jets this Sunday night. It is sounding unlikely that he'll be back for the Giants game, but it is sounding promising that he'll be back from the ankle injury 2 weeks after that. And again, Steelers will have their bye week after that Giants game. And then we really get into the meat of the schedule. And it's why I don't want to overstate the importance of these next 2 games, because it's a long season and you see teams drop games that are inexplicable, and then you see them win games that you figure they have no chance. So it's not that, 5-3 is the end of the world, or even 4-4, but it really feels like the Steelers need to get to 6-2 and then kind of reevaluate. The other concern for me with Russell Wilson going in is then you are saying as an organization that, yep, Russell Wilson's our better quarterback, better option. And if he goes out and struggles, then you're turning back to Justin Fields after just admitting that Fields, again, this is my read on it, you're telling Fields that he's not good enough to be your guy. And then if Wilson goes out there and, let's say, throws a couple of first-half picks or just struggles mightily, I think it's harder than to bring back Fields in and say, we still have full confidence in him. Whereas if Fields does have a game here where he does struggle, whether it's against the Jets on Sunday night or the Giants the following Monday night or one of the other games, to me, you can put Russell Wilson in and still have the open competition the following week. And I don't think have it be perceived as quite the disaster at the position that it's going to be perceived as if Wilson goes in here against the Jets and struggles. Now, that's the pessimistic perspective. Obviously, the hope would be if they make the change, Russell Wilson goes out there and the offense clicks at a higher efficiency and better rate than what we've seen it to this point in the season. And if that's the case, obviously, then all is well. And you have, again, Justin Fields, I guess in that case, then you would say, well, this is good because, he saw that he wasn't playing well enough to make things happen. And so we're okay moving forward. Everything's hunky and dory, and we go from there. So we'll see. Now, the Eagles had unexpectedly tough one with the Browns, but they're in a similar position here in terms of, I think, the run they can make because they're at the Giants, but it's still the Giants, and I think this is a game that Philadelphia probably at the moment feels like it needs to have. Now, Eagles are sitting there I guess a half game behind the Commanders right now in the NFC East, and at 3-2. So that, and Commanders have a very interesting game coming up, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit here as well. And then the Eagles are at the Bengals, and then let's just take those 2 weeks, these next 2 weeks. So if they can get both of those games, then they're sitting there at 5-2. And again, I think feeling pretty good. If they lose either or just one of them, 4-3, it kind of feels like a pretty blah start. And listen, these are both road games, and road games in the NFL, I don't care who it's against, they're not easy. And it'll be a desperate Bengals team for sure that Philadelphia will be facing. And, I still think the Bengals could be a dangerous team. They just, for whatever reason, that offense in particular is not putting it together at all. And we're getting to the stage of the season where it's like, well, if you're not putting it together, then you're just not putting it together. And really, we haven't seen, like, the Steelers offense still isn't lighting the world on fire, but you're seeing little incremental progress there and some things that you can feel good about if you're a Steelers fan. I don't know that, at least to this point, with the Bengals, that you're seeing much that you can hang your hat on with the way that offense is progressing or not progressing. And so anyways, we'll see what happens. Now, Bengals have I was just double checking. I thought they have it's at Cleveland this week. They have their matchup with the first of their two matchups with the Browns this week. So that should be a recipe to get to stay on the winning track now for the Bengals. Although we'll see. And then the Commanders are home with Carolina. Of course, I think Washington acquitted itself even with the loss very well against still a half game in front of Philadelphia going in. Should beat the Panthers this week. And although, again, anytime you chuck up an automatic W, it ends up not being the case. But feel pretty good about the Commanders at home against the Panthers here on Sunday. Do want to mention we will have coverage of the Saints-Broncos game tonight here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. Our coverage will get underway at 7:30. I think the game kicks off at 8:15 or thereabouts. And game that the Saints should win, but again, it is pretty goofy what can happen 1 week to the next in the NFL. So we'll keep an eye on that one tonight again, but we'll have live coverage starting at 7:30. But I think an important weekend for the Eagles to likely they're going to need to win to hold serve here against the Commanders. Again, nothing's automatic in the NFL, but certainly like Washington's chances against Carolina here on Sunday. Although I like the Eagles' chances against the Giants here on Sunday as well. We'll see. Some other games of interest in the NFL this weekend. The Seahawks at the Falcons, I think, is worth the watch. Buffalo Bills getting Cooper will be home with Tennessee. Feels like an important game for the Bills to take care of business. Green Bay is home against Houston. Just looking here, we have Minnesota at home against Detroit. That might be the game of the day here on Sunday. Lions are looking very good. Vikings have been one of the, I think, real surprises to this point in the NFL this season. And then we have another interesting one in the late afternoon game on Sunday with the Chiefs at the 49ers. And it's a Kansas City team that maybe hasn't been as impressive as they would hope, but they're sitting there undefeated. And you get the feeling that team will figure it out by the end of the season, because that's just what they always do with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And when you haven't figured it out and you're still undefeated and we're getting into the later stages of the first half of the season, reason for a lot of optimism. But that is a tough game, and I think an intriguing one here for the Chiefs and the 49ers on Sunday. Probably a fairly critical game for the 49ers to maybe start getting a good feeling around what they can do here in the 2024 campaign. I think, are they sitting at 500? I should have looked this up. They're 3-3 right now. Now, they're in the NFC West, so they're tied with Seattle atop the standings at 3-3. So certainly not a must-win from the standpoint of making a run at the playoffs. But I do think it's an important game for San Francisco to maybe try to develop a little bit of that swagger back and to just feel good about the prospects for becoming a Super Bowl contender, remaining a Super Bowl contender, however you want to look at it, for the rest of this season. Just looking, I think the Chiefs and Vikings are the only undefeated teams left in the NFL. And again, Chiefs will be at the 49ers, and the Vikings have a big one at home with the 4-1 Detroit Lions. So those are certainly games worth keeping an eye on here this weekend. We're going to look at some of the college football games. We've talked a little bit about Texas, Georgia, and Alabama, Tennessee. There's some other ones that I think are going to be very, very interesting and worth watching if you get the opportunity, at least keeping tabs on if you're a Penn State fan in terms of how some things can set up here regarding the playoff race and even the Big Ten race. I know it feels at the moment, and I am a believer still at this point, that as we thought at the start of the season, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State are going to be those top three teams in the Big Ten. At the moment, I think most are presuming that it is now Oregon that will finish 1, Ohio State 2, Penn State 3. I think Penn State still very much has a chance to get it in the mix there. We'll maybe kick that around a little bit. What are the realistic prospects here for Penn State when Ohio State comes calling in early November? We'll kick all of that and more around as we continue. It's our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia, Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half-century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Haw-Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Haw-Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Haw-Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead.
You are listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here from Quaker Steak and Lube. On this Thursday, we'll have Jed Donahue on the Pennsylvania Sports Network rolling your way at 4 o'clock this evening. And again, NFL action tonight starting at 7:30, as we will have live coverage of the Thursday night game. New Orleans Saints trying to get the home victory, and I think an important one for the Saints to get that home victory tonight. And we'll have live coverage starting at 7:30 as they will take on the Denver Broncos this evening. All right, let's go to the college football schedule. I think there's little question, at least in my mind, that the game of the weekend in the Big Ten is the matchup with Nebraska and Indiana. And it's interesting because both of these teams are coming off bye weeks. So both Nebraska and Indiana have had 2 weeks to get ready for this matchup on Saturday. And I think it's a chance for Indiana to maybe prove itself that the 6-0 start is not anything fluky. They have not played certainly a great schedule to this point. I don't know that you would say there's a signature victory that they have in there to this point, but this would be at home, and it's a Nebraska team that just has the one loss, and we'll turn to Nebraska here in a moment. But I think this would be the first win that would maybe kind of validate that, yeah, you know what, Indiana might be for real. Probably the win over Northwestern 2 weeks ago is the biggest win of the season, and they did handle that game with relative ease, 41-24. But the other wins, Maryland, which, is looking like it's going to be right near the bottom of the Big Ten when it's all said and done. Charlotte, Western Illinois, Florida International, and UCLA, which is also struggling, I think it's fair to say, in its first season in the Big Ten. So here's the thing with Indiana. This is when I say there's a lot that we don't know, even though we're halfway through the season and we're seeing some things play out. Indiana is one of those teams where, listen, it's impressive that they're 6-0, and I don't want to take anything away. That is Indiana getting to 6 wins, period, is a lot of seasons worth celebrating, let alone getting to 6 wins through its first 6 games of the season. So regardless of who they've played, that is a good start, no doubt about it. But much like we were talking earlier about USC and how I can see them, I don't think it'd be shocking if they sat there at 9-3 at season's end. I don't think it'd be shocking if they were sitting there at 6-6 at season's end. I don't know how some things are going to play out there. I think it's much the same thing with Indiana in terms of I could see them easily at like 9-3, and I don't think it's that unrealistic if they can get on a roll here. That they could be 10-2, maybe even 11-1. So you start with this Nebraska game, and to me, it's a toss-up. I know it's home. I think Indiana is. I know they're favored. Let me I'll look up the point spread here. I know I saw they are favored. Let me just quickly get that information. But to me, this is a toss-up game, regardless, for Indiana. This is not going to be a shocker, at least to me, if they end up losing this game. And they are, all right, they're touchdown favorites, 7-point favorites over Nebraska. And that feels a little high to me, but in the right neighborhood. I would have thought maybe 5 points, give or take a half point there for the Hoosiers. But so favored in this one. And then this is their remaining schedule. They're home with Washington. Because it's at home, thinking they should win. Then they're at Michigan State. Right now, I think you'd say you feel like Indiana should win that, but to me, neither of those would be like stunning, out of this world, Vanderbilt beating Alabama type stuff. It's like, I think Indiana would win both of those. But they then have home with Michigan. They're at Ohio State. That's the one that I would kind of circle as, if not a definite loss, a most probable loss. And then home with Purdue, which I would circle that one as a almost definite win, although rivalry element. And I don't know. I didn't see any of the games, so I don't know how Purdue put up 49 against Illinois. That one is just baffling to me. But every week there's at least a couple of games that are just absolutely baffling to me. So anyways, Indiana, I think could finish anywhere from 7-5 to potentially even 11-1. Most likely to me is 9-3. It feels to me like they're going to lose Michigan, Ohio State, and then one of those other games. I would say Nebraska or at Michigan State would feel like the most likely potential losses to me. But again, Washington, even Purdue, nothing given there. I am really interested to see the coaching matchup here with Cignetti versus Matt Roll, and the quarterback matchup. Rourke has been playing at a very high level against admittedly subpar competition. And of course, Raiola has been the talk of college football. And I think that is this is a chance for him to maybe take another step in terms of the national spotlight. And hey, look at this. We knocked off an undefeated team, and especially if he is a driving reason behind the Nebraska victory, this could be a really significant game for him and for the Nebraska team. And again, when you look at Nebraska and their remaining schedule, and again, their only loss was to Illinois, and that was in overtime. And Illinois remains undefeated with the exception of the Penn State game. And we've got to see how this plays out with Illinois as well. So Nebraska, after this, they're at Ohio State, which, listen, that game, if Nebraska can beat Indiana, that Nebraska-Ohio State game becomes really interesting because, how much, and I think both coaches and both programs do a very good job of kind of that 1-0 mentality, taking it one game at a time. But I think both coaches will be really emphasizing in those weeks the importance for Ohio State of taking Nebraska seriously, and for James Franklin, the importance of taking Wisconsin seriously, because those just feel like games that are really dangerous for both of those teams ahead of one of those showdown matchups in the conference this year. But anyways, back to Nebraska. So Indiana this week, then they're at Ohio State, then home with UCLA. I'll circle that one as a win. Then they're at USC, home with Wisconsin, at Iowa. toss up in my mind. Depending on which way USC goes, I could see them rolling to a victory there. But it's out there, and if USC hangs with it, again, that is a tough out for anybody. Wisconsin, I just did not see the 42-7 win for the Badgers against Rutgers coming at all. So I don't know if Wisconsin just now suddenly put things together, or if it was just one of those days where everything went right for Wisconsin, nothing went right for Rutgers, or exactly what to make of that. But right now, wouldn't be surprised if that game goes either way. And same thing with Iowa, especially on the road. End of the season, again, it'll depend a lot on what Nebraska is playing for at that point, and for that matter, what Iowa is playing for at that point, in terms of how I think that game could go. So there's a lot of teams like this in college football, and certainly in the Big Ten, where you're like, I could see 3 losses there, but none of them seem overly daunting. Could see them running the table. At the very least, I think with USC, Nebraska, Indiana, I have like a 4-game spread there where I'm like, I could see them finishing anywhere from, 7-5 for Indiana to all the way up to 11-1. Kind of Nebraska, same thing. I could see them. I think most likely they're going to settle in around 8-4 or 9-3. But do I think 10-2 is on the table? Yeah, maybe. Do I think 6-6 is on the table? Yeah, maybe. And that's why we just got to see how things play out. I think that Michigan-Illinois game this week is really fascinating. That is at Champaign. And before last week, I would have told you, listen, I think Illinois' defense against that Michigan offense, I'm giving edge Illinois. But Illinois just gave up 49 points to Purdue. Are you kidding me? My confidence is shot at the moment in the Illinois defense. Now, I do think that Illinois offense is good enough, even against Michigan, that they'll be able to score some points, make some things happen. But that's another one of those games, especially because it's in Champaign. I'm like, I don't know. I could see Michigan winning it, could see Illinois winning it. It's going to be big for both of those teams and what's possible now the rest of the way. The winner obviously gains a good bit of confidence coming out of it, and the loser is up against it. I'm not sure how realistic any playoff possibilities for either of those programs are this season, but certainly whatever possibilities there are to me virtually out the window with a loss in Saturday's game. So I think that is a critical game for both of those programs. Another one that I think is and USC is at Maryland. We'll maybe get an idea of where USC is mentally at this point. I think USC wins the game. I know it's a cross-country trip and all of that, but do they win it by 7 or do they win it by 30? I think the talent disparity would tell you USC should win by, at least 20, even on the road and with the trip and all of that. But I'm really curious to kind of see what type of passion or enthusiasm USC comes out with in that game. I think it's going to be telling as far as the remainder of the season for the Trojans. And then Michigan State is home with Iowa. I could see that one going either way. I think that's a pivotal game for both of those programs. And Rutgers takes on UCLA. Wisconsin is at Northwestern. Maybe see if Wisconsin can really build some steam here going into the Penn State game. Again, Wisconsin, no question, coming off by far its best performance of the season with the win over Rutgers. And now how does Rutgers respond to that? UCLA has to make that cross-country trip again all the way to New Jersey. But again, Rutgers just got waxed 42-7 last week. And then, of course, Friday night, Oregon will be at Purdue. I am presuming that'll be an easy W, but we've seen teams coming off those big emotional wins have tremendous letdowns, and Purdue now has to have gained some confidence by hanging as close as it did and taking Illinois to the brink there. Again, I'm talking it up as a win for Oregon, but maybe shouldn't do that just with the way this college football season is playing out. But I can't imagine Oregon stubbing its toe there. Maybe it ends up being a little closer than what we're expecting, but no way they lose at Purdue, right? Yeah, I think we're right on that one. Another one that's interesting Friday night, just interesting because can Florida State, they are 1-5 right now, the Florida State Seminoles, 1-5. I know there were some people that were very dubious about the number 10 preseason ranking. And I know there were some people that thought they might struggle, but nobody, I mean, come on, 1-5 and perhaps on their way. Like, this feels like a team that's going to struggle to get to the 3-win mark in the ACC this season. And, you know, this is a Duke team that's been playing good football. Maybe a little surprising to this point are the Blue Devils. They're kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, 5-1, and even in the loss to Georgia Tech, it was I think it ended up being a 10-point loss, but it was kind of a battle throughout. And I mean, I think Duke wins this one, and really, since Florida State reeling, and I don't know how that thing plays out for the Seminoles. That game is intriguing just because of the utter panic that is setting in Tallahassee about what this season is gone. But I think as to what the future may be here for the Seminoles, it feels like they feel maybe some things slipping away here of the possibility of things to come even. And maybe they need to make a coaching change a year after they thought they, should be right there. And they were right there in the mix for the national championship. A couple of other games. Miami is at Louisville. There's a lot of folks that believe Miami still overrated, maybe should have lost a couple of games. They're still sitting there undefeated. They're a lot of people skeptical. Louisville's a good team. We'll see. This feels like a Miami win to me, but I think there's a lot of people, including me, that'll be pulling for Louisville to kind of finally put Miami in its place. I think this is a game that Miami wins, and I don't think it comes down to a last-second play and they get a break or a perceived break here or there. This one, I know Louisville's good. I think Miami wants to prove a point here, and I think Miami, I don't think they're going to blow them out, but I think it ends up like a 10 to 13-point victory here for the Hurricanes. But listen, it's at Louisville. You know the Louisville fans will be pumped up for it. It's an early kickoff, noon kickoff for Louisville. So that's certainly a game worth keeping your eye on here on Saturday. And then a few other games on the national front. One that is probably under the radar, and under the radar for good reason. Neither of these teams are within sniffing distance of the playoffs this year, but South Carolina at Oklahoma is just interesting to me because South Carolina darn near pulled off a big upset. Oklahoma is still trying to make some headway here in its first season in the SEC. At home, the Sooners are presuming that they'll win this game. I think they will, but if they don't, again, it's going to feel like the sky is falling in Norman, and I don't think it'll be shocking if South Carolina is able to pull off the win there. The other one that I will be rooting mightily, even though I am not at all optimistic, but I will be rooting mightily for Georgia Tech, which is home with Notre Dame. This is, I think, one of the few opportunities for Notre Dame to stub its toe again. And yep, I didn't see the Northern Illinois one coming, but this could be a little bit of a dangerous game for the Fighting Irish. And if you are like me, wanting to make sure, and by the way, I like Marcus Freeman, love their coach. I don't want Notre Dame in the playoffs. And a loss here to Georgia Tech, when combined with the Northern Illinois loss, I think all but eliminates from Notre Dame from consideration for the playoffs. Now, are there scenarios that could play out where Notre Dame still ends up in the playoffs with 2 losses? Yep, but I think it becomes a very tall order, and obviously there's no margin for error there than the rest of the season, and they still have the service academies, and they still the undefeated service academies, I should point out, in Army and Navy, and they still have USC there on the road at the end of the season. So a loss here really puts Notre Dame up against it in terms of playoff consideration this season. So go Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech here on Saturday is is my plea anyway, heading into the weekend. And then a couple of other games that I think just kind of worth keeping an eye on. Kansas State, coming off that big win over Colorado, is at West Virginia, and West Virginia, I know, coming off a loss where Iowa State just kind of dominated that game, controlled it from start to finish. This still feels like a dangerous game to me for Kansas State, because I think there's a lot of presumption now that, well, yeah, West Virginia's down, Kansas State coming off the big win. We talked about it earlier. We're seeing a lot this season where teams coming off the big emotional win have that letdown the following week, and in some cases it's cost them dearly. It feels like it could be that type of a game there for Kansas State. At least it feels that way to me going into it here on Saturday. And then the other one I'm keeping an eye on for much the same reason as LSU at Arkansas. Arkansas has shown it can be a dangerous team. LSU coming off the big emotional victory on the road, night game for Arkansas. I'll be rooting for Arkansas. I do not like Brian Kelly, and I'm hoping LSU blows it. But I think there's actually an excellent chance that they will, that Arkansas will take care of business there at home, and I'm certainly rooting for the Hogs to do exactly that. So a lot worth watching if you're a Penn State fan and a college football fan this weekend, despite the Nittany Lions not being in action. Again, Penn State will be at Wisconsin a week from Saturday. That'll be a 7:30 kickoff, and that game will be on NBC. We'll talk much more about it. I do think it's a dangerous game. I think it's a game Penn State should be in good shape with. I think Penn State, if it takes it just plays its game, will be fine with. But because you're coming off the bye week, because it is a night game at Camp Randall, because Ohio State's the following week, all of those things are combining to make that game more of a concern, more of a danger. Plus, it does seem like Wisconsin has maybe figured some things out. It was a very impressive win that they had last week over Rutgers. And again, it wasn't just that they beat Rutgers. I mean, they beat them 42-7. I'm still stunned by that one. And Wisconsin is at Northwestern. We'll obviously see if they can continue to build on that, and maybe how much concern there is or should be for Penn State going in to that one. So we'll talk about all of that and much more on Tuesday. Again, Center County Red Zone tomorrow night from 7 to 10. Until next Tuesday when Goon rejoins us, I'm your old pal Ironhead, and I'm wishing you to be both safe and good.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing and State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.